Welcome to the Top 500 with Jonathan and Jake.
Bless you. Hey. Are you okay?
Yeah, sorry, I just sniffed a bunch of salt.
What? Why?
Well, I was watching a movie,
Okay.
and I spilled a bunch of salt everywhere, and I was trying to clean it up, and then something crazy happened in the movie, and I gasped and sniffed up a bunch of salt. You see, I'm trying to do this, that's dumb, it's like this podcast thing.
No, man, don't be hard on yourself. It sounds really interesting. What's the podcast about?
This is a podcast where I'm watching movies and talking about them, but like I can't really think of a lot to talk about all the time. It'd be great if I could just have a co-host.
Yeah, that would be really. I know a guy who actually is trying to co-host on a podcast.
Would you want to watch like 500?
Do you want to meet him?
Yeah, I'd love to meet him.
I'll go get him.
Okay. This guy's ghosting me. What do they say?
He's gonna be right out.
All right, thanks. Sounds good.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Mr. Salt.
Mr. Salt?
Two misters.
That's...
I don't like this. Let's bail. Hey, my name's
My name is Jonathan Gautier.
Mr. Salt. What was that all about?
I don't know, but I think we could have made something out of it.
I think we could have potentially, if we workshopped that a little bit.
Let's say it would have been hilarious, but I think everyone listening is glad that we bailed.
I think everybody really benefited from missing out on that one. Hey, welcome to the Top 500 podcast, the show where two movie dudes watch in
reverse chronological order.
Chronological's time. Numerical. Reverse numerical order.
Fair.
Glad we figured that out.
If we were watching
that would have been embarrassing. Oh, that would be also a different story, but I'm glad we cleared that up. Anyways, we watch in reverse from the bottom to the top, the internet's picks for statistically the top 500 movies. Join with me always, Jonathan Gautier.
And joined with us, or shall we say, supporting us, the lovely Arrow Podcast Network.
Oh, thanks to the Arrow Podcast Network.
The Arrow Podcast Network.
And also joining with us is...
my arch nemesis.
Uh-oh. He's being pretty quiet.
Oh, I know where this is going. You can't trick me on this. Oh no, T500. I'm sorry, buddy.
Usually we get a sign in from our robot co-host.
Robo-host. Yes, it is I, T500. Sorry for my silence, Jake and Mr. Gautier.
Something seems to be bothering him.
He definitely seems more upset than usual.
He
usually seems pretty upset.
He's pretty even. I think he's pretty even-keeled, but is something the matter, buddy? Why are you being so quiet, pal?
I am experiencing something that goes against my programming. Because of this, I am trying to synthesize the emotion, or pseudo-emotion, because I am a robot.
Oh.
Are you feeling the urge to dance, and you can't because you don't have a physical body yet?
Oh, man, think
we
about
can make
that.
you one.
Well, maybe that's something that will happen before the 10 years of the 500.
Yeah, dude.
Me and you build.
Honestly, we could probably
body.
buy an AI at some point and just download all of T500's memories.
We should do that.
Memories like continue T500.
Yeah, what's going on, man?
As you may remember from our last recording, I am on the search for love in my journey to understand the idea of world domination.
Yes. I remember that.
Me too.
Continue.
And so I took to the internet, where I was set up by a friend on a blind date, which is completely metaphorical. I have not been programmed to see with my eyes because I do not have eyes because I am a robot named T500.
That's right.
You could dance better with eyes, too. I want to see T500 dance within the next 10 years.
I say 10 years from now, that's the goal of the show. Not really finish the list, but see T500 dance. Speaking of dance, dancing is what you do on dates.
You can dance if you want to. You can leave your friends behind.
Yeah, exactly. A blind date seems like a pretty big deal.
How'd it go?
Especially for a robot. Well, have you gone?
Oh.
I don't think he's gone yet.
It's not.
He seems nervous about it.
Oh.
Do you two, the most human of humans, have any advice for a robot going on a blind date?
Advice for robots going on a blind date. Well, he didn't even really say if his date was a robot, but let's just assume. Well, we shouldn't assume.
Yeah,
Anyway,
is she programmed to see?
He's not going to talk to you about that.
Oh, yeah, T500 hates me.
I like that bit is not really being explored as much as kind of his own kind of personal struggles. What do you think? What do you think, Jay? Hey, Jay.
What's up, Jay?
What do you think? Robot on a blind date. What piece of advice would you give him? Have you ever been on a blind date?
No. No, I have really good vision.
Oh, you guys similarly have a good sense of humor.
Yeah, let me think, T500.
Blind date. I mean, it's always...
Answer me a few questions. Just kidding. I know it's not an option. All right. I say, first thing is, you got to crack your... Okay, you're pretty funny, as we've seen on the show.
He's programmed for humor.
He's programmed for great humor. Crack your jokes, like, first things first.
Go funny.
Because you need an attention getter. Okay. You don't need to be like, I'm just going to be this sweet, passive little robot, and then she'll learn that I'm deserve love. No, you don't deserve love if you're not making her laugh.
Mm-hmm. Be funny. And then mine is, first of all, get yourself some physical form. Doesn't have to be a human body. Could be, a flat screen monitor on a, what's the Paul Blart Mobile called? Segway.
Segway.
Do you get the thing about the Segway? The creator of the Segway?
How he died?
You want to say it or should I?
Go for it.
Segway inventor. Right? He's going to go test. He's going to go show people.
Off. He's trying to show off doing this.
He's showing his precision on a Segway that he invented. So really, if anyone should be kind of high on their horse, it's him. Obviously, he wouldn't ride a horse because he invented the Segway.
Yeah, he wouldn't need one. He's trying to show how quickly
he can stop it.
Yeah.
And he goes to
efficient.
He goes to a cliff and he gets a number of people
to prove he's not afraid.
Yes,
he'll stop it on the edge of a cliff.
And I mean, I feel like you guys probably know where this is going.
He probably tested it on cement, and I bet you $100 the cliff had dirt on it.
I never thought about it like that
before. I bet you $100.
It's a lot more.
Yeah,
what's it? Slidey.
Yeah,
I think is the scientific.
Yeah, slidey
term.
is.
So, anyways,
he said no slidey.
Oh, the guy fell off the cliff.
Yeah, he went right over
and died. So, anyways,
a multi-million-dollar industry still.
Mm-hmm. So, really, his memory lives on in the Segway. Back to the blind date. I say, get yourself a physical form. Dress nice. Put on a blazer or over the Segway. And
that's what I was gonna say. You could just lay a blazer over a chair, and if she's like, "Is that Gucci?" It's gonna be like, "This guy."
Laying a blazer over a chair, that's the way you gotta go. And then I think it just shows, because obviously you have access to all the information in the entire world. So I'm sure you could find a stylish outfit and just look up a stylish outfit,
Gucci,
drape it over a chair, and then be funny, right?
Yes. And well, yeah, go for it.
No, what did you?
I just can't. Can you imagine being one of the spectators? He's like, here's a VIP pass. I'm going to show you how incredible this thing is. I'm so sure I'm going to drive it to the edge of a cliff. And you're just like, this is crazy. Like, I'm about to see this thing must be stopping good. And then you're there and he just flies off the cliff.
If it were me, Jake Magruder, 2021, at this event, which I do not know the exact date that it happened.
Yeah.
It's a Google. That's a good Google.
Yeah,
Google that. Google it. I know I would probably react like, this is part of the thing. Like,
yeah, you're expecting a Marty McFly, like, oh, he disappeared, and then he comes up on the flying Segway. That was the whole reason for this
it's thing. The announcement of the flying Segway.
Yeah. That would be a genius announcement. That would be so cool.
And now they can't do it because it would just go against the legacy of the guy who invented the Segway, whose name was John T. Segway.
No way. That's very interesting. Let's segue back to.
Speaking of segues,
yeah, let's segue
that's
back
the advice
to
I'd say I give to T500.
Don't what?
That dress nice and be funny.
Yes, me too.
Very surface level. We could say like be nice, ask about their interests.
Oh, that is actually a good one, T500, and it'll work to your advantage since everything you say is programmed by Jake, and he's not going to be on this date with you.
What are you talking about?
Look, get programmed by the powers that be.
5
or 6 things to say. but get some deep questions in there. Like, what do you think about the existence of God? If God, get her talking for 30 minutes at a time, and she's gonna afterwards. She's gonna talk your little robot ears off, and she's gonna look back and just be like, "I just had the greatest time."
Does not have eyes, does not have ears.
How does he hear your questions and not mine? I thought it was through selective hearing.
Well, go on with what you were saying.
Anyways, get her to talk the whole time, and then she's gonna be like, "Wow, that was such a good date. I feel like I learned so much about him." But in reality, she didn't learn anything about you.
Because it was programmed by someone else, probably.
Yeah. Oh, is it a robot? I thought he's going on a date with a robot?
No, I'm saying he really didn't learn anything.
No, he learned nothing.
But he probably knows everything about the date.
She could program the info.
There's a lot of layers to this. I really can't wait for next week when we hear about this date. Yeah. It sounds like it's going to be really interesting. Anyways, T5...
I have one last question. If it's a blind date and he can't see anything, how does he know if she gets up and goes to the bathroom and bails?
That is such a good question.
And I think about these things in the 21st century.
I think I don't have... Because I don't program T500. I don't have the capability to do that.
Is that a fact? There's a big conspiracy going around among all the fans.
On the forums?
Yeah, all the people who haven't heard this podcast yet.
Top 500 forums is so stupid. Just imagine people being like, well, I thought that...
I think Jake is really behind T500.
Can you imagine? Anyways, T5s, I think that's... be nice, be interested in them. If they leave, we'll talk about it next week.
I appreciate the words that exited your mouths. I synthesized all of it. It was neither good nor bad, but it does exist. Wish me the idea of luck on my quote blind date end quote.
Don't phrase the quote at the end as neither good or bad. That's my...
He's a robot. He doesn't have emotions.
I don't care.
I'm sure whoever programmed him thought that would be kind of funny because he's like a robot. He's like... he's subjective.
I thought he was nervous. You don't program T500. You seem to know nothing about
like
him.
Kind of a cluttered right.
Me and T500 are getting closer, and you just don't even know who you are anymore.
Oh my gosh. Well, we'll catch up with T500 next week and see how that date went.
Keep it real, bro.
Keep it real. Keep it easy and keep it sleazy.
Yeah, please.
All right, guys. Well, we're going to take a little break and hear from some advertisements, and then we'll be back to talk about this week's movie, which, may I say, is a juicer.
It's a slapper.
It's a slapper and a juicer.
It's a banger. It's a bop. It's a zoom zoom. It's a creepy crowd. It's a good one.
5 more.
As the Nashville.
5 more.
It is a bonker.
1.
It's a booper.
2.
Could I say it's the bomb?
3.
It's a bip.
4. Take us home. Take us home. It's
a boodly-oodly-oop.
Oh,
Those are all good things. Look them up in the Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, we'll talk to you guys in a second.
Boodly-oodly-oop. I've only used for 2 movies ever.
Which ones?
This and Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
The top 500 will be right back after these messages.
Are you a fan of audio dramas? Or are you trying to get your feet wet in the subject of audio dramas? Well, we may be busy or we may be on a commute. Whatever the case is, our ears are always itching for a good story. And writers, actors, and producers all across the internet are there to give us those stories. The Playback reviews audio dramas and fiction podcasts to give you the cream of the crop and to give you what's new in the audio drama sphere. Listen to The Playback from the Arrow Podcast Network, recorded by the crew of Red Hawk Radio Theater.
Hi everyone, I'm Daria Lawson, host of Decomposing, one of the Arrow Podcast Network's featured shows. If you love music, analysis, and the music world's questions and contemplations, check out the show and tons of other Arrow podcasts at southeastarrow.com/multimedia.
You have returned to the top 500 podcast with Jonathan and Jake.
Wow.
Oh, Jake.
Yeah.
What a good joke you just made.
I was surprised at first about the joke, and then I laughed.
Yeah.
Typical Jake.
And then you said, wow.
So there was something before the wow. Sorry, I blacked out.
Yeah. Remember all the jokes you were just saying during the advertisement?
Can you tell me the punchline of the joke?
Yeah, it was...
Not the setup, just the punchline.
I get you. Well, you're not going to give it to me.
Yeah, okay.
It was funny.
Wow is right.
Yeah, that's it.
Hey, welcome back to the Top 500. We're watching movies and we're talking about them. Are you with us? I like that. That's kind of cool.
Just take a good drink of water.
It's kind of like one of those trucker radios. You know what I mean? They're just like, this is Silly Goose, and I'm sitting here with abs. Your abs.
Ooh, okay.
We're watching movies and talking about them. Are you with us?
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go for that character some more later.
You go for that character. I'm going to come up with a new wacky, zany character.
This sounds like it's going to work out fine. Hey, T500, what movie are we watching this week?
Today's movie is Robert Altman's Nashville. The film's Wikipedia article describes it as a satirical musical ensemble comedy drama film, which both perfectly describes the film and yet doesn't even come close to describing it.
That sounds like very
That's crazy. That's almost exactly what you... It seems like it was almost like your thoughts on the movie. Like that last sentence?
Yeah.
Maybe you guys are close, but you don't get him, but you guys are similar.
I don't get him. I think there's a bigger rift than you think, and I think we're probably going to explore that later.
Okay, well, can we explore the whole thing about T500 hating me? I'd like to explore that.
It'll come around. He's looking for love right now. We're on the world domination arc right now.
We're not going to fall in love with each other. I just want to be friends with the guy.
I'm not.
Oh, you're saying the arc is not ready.
No.
We got to save material in our real life with T500, the real robot.
We got 10 years of material we got to work out. So
every time you say that, it's just like
10 years. I've not even been alive for 10 years.
I have.
Yeah.
But when I was...
It's cool to be 11.
Yeah. Well...
I'm 9, you're 11. Anyways, Robert Altman made this movie that I can honestly film, as our past president would say, 45 would say, film.
Yeah, as a pretty prestigious guy.
Hey, save it for the political podcast, buddy. But speaking of politics, this movie has a lot of political themes that we will dive into very strongly that I want to talk about. But first, if you haven't been tuning in to our podcast, first of all, what are you doing? Second of all, we have a segment called the Lightning Round where we put 60 seconds on the clock, and it is the person's job to describe the film in 60 seconds.
All the way through.
Last week,
naming every character.
Jonathan was on the Lightning Round, and he had a hour and 20-minute animated film, which was pretty. There was 5 characters, and a lot of it was metaphorical, so the plot was pretty easy to sum up.
Yes.
The week before, I had a 4-hour movie with upwards of...
Not just a 4-hour movie, a 4-hour German silent film.
I don't want to blow it out of proportions, but I think there were upwards of 1,000 characters in that movie.
Uh-huh.
And
there were upwards of 1,000 uses of the word "and" in your 60-second description.
I'm not going to try to work on it. All right? It's survival mode. And so this week's movie was 2.5 hours, and there was a lot going on.
There's 24 main characters in this film.
I'm not even going to try. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not even going to try to remember their names. Watch the movie. I feel like that should be pretty go without saying. If you want to get the plot, watch the movie and then come back. There's
a lot of spoilers.
But
if for some reason you want to hear people talk about a movie that you're not really understanding any of the context around, go ahead and keep listening.
We have fun.
Yeah, but without further ado.
60 seconds on the board. Here we go. So this film takes place in Nashville, and it's about country music and kind of the world that surrounds that. So there's an old country music star, and then there's also a kind of relatively well-known country music superstar who's a woman who comes and visits around the time of this political... it's this event about a new political person that's running for president, but she faints. So then she's in the hospital, and then it's about kind of just everything that's going on in the world of country music. There's people that want to be stars. There are people that are stars that are not happy about being stars. And then there's this guy who's trying to get all of the people together to come to his political rally to support him as president. She's in the hospital the whole time, and she performs, and it seems like she's kind of losing her marbles when she comes out of the hospital. But then all of a sudden, they get another lady who's going to perform. It doesn't work out good for her. We'll talk about that in a second. But it ends, and they are at the political rally. And it turns out she gets shot, and it is all a metaphor about the shooting of JFK and the state of politics in the 1970s.
That was weirdly good. Because I kept thinking, I was like, he's really like cutting corners here. And then I thought about it and I was like, no, so this is like such a hangout movie.
Yes.
The majority of the movie is just getting to understand these characters. So like everything you just said really is the only plot per se.
Thank you.
Other than the other than like the 1,000 side stories going on, which the movie's incredible. I'm not dogging on it. I don't know if you're not familiar with the term hangout movie. It's like a movie that's specifically designed to the whole point of the movie is to get to know the characters. And kind of that's it. Like you're learning about these characters, you're getting to know them. But it's weird because usually a hangout movie will have some kind of like maybe like a pretty ending or like some way that sends it all off. And then this movie, the ending completely changes it almost to where I don't even want to call it a hangout movie.
No, it's going back to hangout movie for again just some supporting evidence of what you're saying. Think like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yes.
Think about what's the Richard
Dazed and Confused.
Dazed and Confused.
Those are hangout movies.
yeah,
where you see it, you're just like, what is the plot?
Napoleon Dynamite.
Napoleon Dynamite, 100%.
Yeah, it's just there is no real. There's a narrative and there's things that they are trying to say, but it really is more of a character study of this group of people, or sometimes one or two people that you're just kind of getting to hang out with those characters.
Yeah.
And that's very much what this movie is, which we will talk about more in a second. Broad strokes, what did you think of this movie?
I thought the movie was incredible. And I felt like it seemed, when I was watching it with like some of the one takes, it seemed very real. And like the way people like messed up stuff. Like at the end, whenever Barbara Jean is the lady who like gets shot at the end, her husband didn't want her to come to this political thing in the first place. So whenever he agreed to not let her do it, but he's like her agent. So the people that were telling him like, yeah, we want her there, he was like, no, we do not get. She's not getting involved with politics. Like that's not going to happen. He ends up agreeing to it on terms that there's no like publicly brought. It just seems like it can be a rally for this guy, but there's no like stuff on the stage. He ends up seeing the candidate's name on the stage and like freaks out.
Yes.
And the scene where the guy's like, well, yeah, well, you're gonna, I'm gonna bust you up, Buster. It was just like, that was so real. There is no way that was how that was written.
I'm really glad you said that. And broad strokes, this movie, I feel like we're going to be saying this about a lot of things on this list because these are the top 500 movies ever made. So, they're doing something different. They're doing something creative. They're trailblazing, I guess you could say, or perfecting something because that's what the point of the list is. Mm-hmm. This movie is unlike anything really again, it's a hangout movie, but also it's this like, it's kind of like a satire. It's kind of a parody at some points. Mm-hmm. It's really funny. It's really dark. It's really, I liked it a lot. It was really, really great, and I would recommend it. Broad strokes, that's what I wanted to get out of the way. Back to what you said, I feel like this movie, I want to know what the script of this movie looked like.
I actually know, researched it.
Okay.
So there was a general script and like stuff, the ways they're supposed to go, but the director was very open to people making the characters their own, improving stuff in the scenes. So like, and he tried to give them as little direction with their parts as possible.
Interesting. Which
I thought, was a very interesting move. But like in scenes where, in scenes where several of the characters would be like, in a bar, just like in one of those dark venues where they'd be like having the concerts and like it's like cutting from table to table, he would have cameras on. So say there's like somebody at this table, somebody at this table, somebody at this table, but the camera is, sorry for podcast purposes. Just say
we'll put a diagram.
Essentially, he would just have the camera like in the corner of the room, where it could get everybody.
Yeah,
and he would zoom up to like certain tables while they were doing the scene. Yeah. But so you never knew while they were recording if the camera was on you or not. So you just had to stay in. Apparently, there was a ridiculous amount of footage, like so much to work with because they got so much coverage of everything going on at the same time. And I know it's weird. I've never really heard about that.
I've never heard about that ever either. I want to talk more about that because we touched on it when we both were talking about it before the recording, and you saying that kind of helped me figure out what I wanted to say. We'll talk about that in direction, but we'll start with performance, right? So back to what you said, it feels so real. Like it doesn't.
There was no character where I was like, this person's a weak link. Like, every person, I was just like, did they just get real? Is this like, is this a documentary? Like, it just seems so real.
See, John did research on it. I watched it pretty soon before we recorded. So I had said something about one thing about the performances, it's a musical, quote unquote. It's not like a Broadway musical where they're breaking out into song within the confines of their reality. They're all musicians. It takes place in Nashville. There are music numbers of people performing live music. It seemed like live music. It seemed like the actors were singing. You said you know about this.
It was, yes. So they recorded it like while they were there. They were recording it live and like getting the audio as they were actually singing in front of it. It wasn't dubbed over. Well, the only thing was though, I don't know if it was when we were watching it just now. I felt like some of Barbara Jean's final songs, the lyric. Well, I don't know. I think she also just moved her mouth a little bit.
I've done a little. Sorry, I didn't mean to flex on you guys, but I've done a couple live music recordings. You have to get.
He has.
You have to do a couple takes. So I'm sure there were cuts, but like when you're doing live takes, you're still doing it live, just multiple times.
Yeah,
you know.
Makes sense.
No, dude, and I want to talk about the actual performances of the actors because this is a character-driven movie through and through, and so that leads a lot of weight on the actors. And like I said, it felt real. I think a lot of that had to do with the look of the movie, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I think so much of it had to do with... I wrote down in my notes, there's no way this is scripted. That's what I wrote. Yeah. And it's because the conversations felt like conversations. Mm-hmm. There's a tendency, and I want you to talk about this, because John writes a heck of a conversation in the screenplay. There's a tendency when you write conversations that everybody knows what the next thing that they're going to say is. Mm-hmm. But that's not how conversations work. When me and John have a conversation, John says something, and then I have to process that and then respond to him.
It's not like 30-second gaps in between.
We take usually a normal conversation takes about 18 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's like hey,
and
man,
it's about menial things.
It's like this. Hey man, how was your day?
What'd you say?
I
didn't think you were going to hold for this. But I wanted to get your take on that because it's typical in a script that every character, it's like they know exactly what they're supposed to say right after the person says it.
And sometimes people can nail it where the dialogue is so good, like Tarantino.
Yes,
it's like it's like a prime example of that. The dialogue is so perfect that it's like the person knows the perfect, just like nail biting, hard hitting thing to say after everything.
Exactly.
But he's so good at it that it's
Sorkin.
Flawless. Yeah.
Or Sorkin, it's like, they're...
Well, Sorkin also adds in elements that makes it feel very much like real dialogue.
It's like verbal,
everybody's always confused with the other person, what exactly they're trying to say.
Fair point. But it's like verbal combat. You know what I mean? It's like back and forth. This one there is, and I think it plays to kind of, they're all hick people. They're not simple people. They're not stupid people. Maybe they're ignorant people about certain things. But especially like some of the business side or people who have been in the country music industry in the movie, they're not nice. They're like they're cold and they're aggressive but it plays to this kind of like country hillbilly vibe that people are confused a lot. Anyways, what did you feel about? Help me about how the dialogue came across, that it wasn't just like call and response back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, so I think there is a way to write dialogue where it sounds more like an actual conversation, but you're always, if you're writing it and you're having them stick to the script, I think you're all, like even Noah Baumbach made like Marriage Story and the Meyerowitz Chronicles and Francis Ha and a lot of other great movies, and he is known for having very realistic sounding dialogue, but even with his, and he's phenomenal at it, like it's great, but even with his dialogue, there's still an element where you can tell that if they stick to it, you can almost tell if you know what writing dialogue is like. And in this movie, when I was watching it, I kept thinking, I researched it and found out that Robert Altman apparently was very encouraging of like improv and all this, but it was so natural that I was thinking the same thing. I was just like, there's no possible way. Yeah. And like we were right about it. But yeah, I think there's an element, you can write dialogue that sounds like real stuff, but like it's just always going to be different. There's always going to be something there unless they're improving it where it's like, this is two people actually just talking to
and
each
agreed.
other.
I mean, standouts, I'd say were more standout characters, which we'll talk about in like the writing stuff. But like performance-wise, really, everybody was just firing on all cylinders. Even like I'm gonna be completely honest. So like Shelley Duvall, most people who are like very avid film watchers probably would say her most recognizable performance is in The Shining. Mm-hmm. I agree. I think when I think Shelley Duvall, that's what comes to mind. That or Popeye, which was also a Robert Altman film. Did you know that?
No.
With Robin Williams?
He must have liked her because she was in Three Women as well.
Yes.
Is it Three Women or Three Sisters?
I don't know.
Something.
It's
in the Criterion Collection. Apparently it was lost for 30 years until Criterion released it in 2004, which now I really want to see.
Yeah. But even Shelley Duvall, who Shining is incredible. Obviously it's a horror staple. I don't think she's very good in that movie. I don't think
Shining?
I don't think Shelley Duvall is very good in that movie. I don't think Shelley Duvall, in the several things that I've seen her in, is very good.
I could agree with that.
In this movie, it's like the role plays to her very well. She's very aloof. She's not very caring of the people around her. Her only goal is to, honestly, get with men.
Yeah. She kind of freaks me out in this movie, honestly. Yeah. It's just like, I don't know. She's like she's almost like the most free spirit character I've ever seen, and something about it just makes me uncomfortable.
Well, she has no connection.
That's it. She's not connected to reality or anything at all. She's just kind of like looking around. And
on the scene where the guy who ends up being the shooter is on his... Yeah, she's just like kind of just walking circles. Which, by the way, again, I want to talk about it when we get in the writing. The fact that they tease the gun that early... When she like tries to touch, and he's like, "Don't touch that!"
So mad. Yes, I thought that was.
That's why when I was watching it and you came in, I was just like mind blown.
Yeah. No, I know that was same for me, and that was also something.
He goes back to his
what are we in
car
right now? The directing or performance?
Performance.
Actually, this works for performance. I don't know if Robert Altman told him to do it or if he did it, but when he started looking at Barbara Jean at the end. That guy did such a good job just by the way he was looking. I was like, this guy's about to shoot her. Because there's something that they 100%. Describe, like anytime we have like an active shooter on surveillance, there's like this look in your eye that people get of this like hate because they're kind of like building themselves up to it. And the guy, whoever that actor was, did like as soon as he started looking at her, I was like, he's gonna shoot her, and I was like, yeah, and like you were saying, it was just like that's why he was freaking out about the case.
We'll
it just all came together.
It all clicks at the end. But that's kind of the interesting thing because outside of like Jeff Goldblum, a young Jeff Goldblum is in this movie.
What a strange little side role. This had to have been one of his first couple movies.
I actually have thought about that, but I'll get into it later. Okay. But Lily Tomlin is in it. She plays the choir singer. Who
did lovely,
so good,
and I love her character. Even when she's unfaithful, I was still just like, you're trying, baby.
She's great. Everybody feels so real. Nobody feels like a character. Well, that's the thing. Some people do, but then it becomes very real, and we'll talk about that. Like, okay, this actually would probably be a standout performance of the movie. There's a character who is a waitress, and she has a dream to be a superstar singer. And the kind of twist on that is she's a terrible singer. She's awful.
How do we know she's a waitress? When do we see her as a waitress?
At the beginning, Jeff Goldblum comes into the diner.
Oh, and is she the one that leans down and talks to him? Okay, I didn't even realize
she sings a song for him.
Okay.
And
oh, yes.
And so it plays like a joke where you're just like, and that to me could have been where it was like, this is kind of like goofy cartoon. She's just like a jokey character. But then there is a scene where she was told she was going to come perform. Turns out it's a striptease to promote the political rally. And so...
Well, I don't think it was initially supposed to be a striptease. Didn't it kind of turn
into... No, 100%.
Really?
The guy on the phone said, I need somebody to come and perform. They didn't say striptease, but I got the vibe that it was always meant to be she was just there to strip.
Interesting. Interesting. That could be. I didn't get that vibe, but I kind of want to watch it again because I thought it was just that the crowd like turned on her and they were like, "This woman sucks. Like, at least take her clothes off." And the guy was like, "Hey, just go with it." Like, but no, I guess that kind of makes more sense actually if that's the situation. If she was always meant to, because that's kind of a weird route to like, hey, these guys are saying take your clothes off, so just go ahead.
Which I mean, that was kind of the point of the scene is that there was just like creepy.
Yeah.
Men in power. This movie, and we'll talk about this when writing, it boils down to, in my opinion, I want to get your thoughts on this, people who want to be famous and people who have the power to make somebody famous. And it works for both country music and politics. This really is kind of it's like a mirror of how politics works in country music. It's kind of like showing like they're the same. It's all political. It's all about fame. It's all about power.
Because you got to think like when they're trying to get everybody to come to the rally to like perform,
it's how you imagine it is behind the doors of like the Senate when Mitch McConnell, when he was majority leader, is trying to just get everybody on board to vote for
exactly. And so it's all this mirror, but she's very much the character of just like she is hungry to be famous, and she will obviously do anything. And so again, performance, she kills it. But like even those characters that are like jokey characters, there's like depth to them. On performance, before we move on to writing, I want to bring up, obviously if you have something, throw it in, but musical performances. This movie, I wouldn't call myself a country music fan. I don't like despise it. I like some country music. I was raised on bluegrass. I was raised in the area. But like, it was so good. And it was because it was so authentic.
Yeah.
It was so good.
Yeah, I thought all the music was incredible. That was actually one thing I wanted to tell you earlier whenever we were talking. So I don't know the specific company, so I'm not going to try to like name it and butcher it. But essentially, Robert Altman wanted to make a movie about something, and they said no. But they wanted him to make a movie. It was basically like a concept that had been thrown around in the studio. They wanted to make a movie that was all about Nashville and all about the country music scene because apparently they had just acquired the rights to something, and they were about to start producing a bunch of country music. So they wanted a movie to showcase a bunch of the country music they were trying to push, which is political in its own little way, which is kind of funny.
Which works to the theme of the movie.
But he agreed, but he said that he had two specifications. I forget what the first one was, but the second one was like, and then after I make this for you guys, I get to make the movie that I initially wanted to make, and then they agreed to that. But yeah, a lot of the music is fantastic. A lot of the songs in the movie are written by the actors playing the characters. One of the guys, I can't remember, he either got nominated or won an Oscar for like best original song.
I believe it.
And it was the guy that played the dad in Fargo. If you've seen the TV show Fargo, my personal favorite TV show.
It's great. So good.
Yeah, the guy who plays Molly's dad in the first season is
so good.
A young stud in this movie. It's kind of weird. He doesn't look anything.
He was a cop, right? The dad was a cop in that show?
No, well, he used to be a cop.
Yeah. He was, No, watch Fargo. It's so good.
It is.
And watch Fargo the movie. It's so great.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's...
it's on the list. I saw... It's actually not that far... Well, no, I think it's like 200s. 2 or 300s or something like that.
So like 5 years.
Yeah, in like 5 years, we'll get to Fargo. So just wait for it. You don't need to watch it. It's not going to go anywhere.
Let's move on to direction if you're cool. If you're good. Dude, this movie is... I used the term. I used it in Maboose. But like this is the only way this is the word that most fits this kind of movie. It's so cool to see an epic story like this told because it is epic. It's huge. Yeah. It's all of Nashville. It's supposed to encompass like this world of country music and how it gets made and how you get in the business and kind of the inside secrets and stuff like that. And so, I mean, it reminded me when I think of an epic story, I think of two things, which is Thrones and Lord of the Rings, which are both, fantasy stories. But I think those are the ones that really affected me.
One better ending than the other.
Yeah, Thrones definitely is. We could
probably.
Yeah,
Lord of the Rings kind of blew it at the end.
This is
Thrones.
The podcast. It was always going to get to this point. We're going to touch on
Thrones.
How Thrones hurt us, because that's how every conversation with any TV and film major always ends.
It's true.
But.
How Thrones hurt us.
Do you know? That's a good podcast. Hey, by the time you're hearing this, Nutter Pig Audio, we have a podcast branch.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's like a secret right now. Yeah. By the time you guys hear it, everyone will know.
If you have podcast ideas, you know what to do. Anyways,
party
on, Wayne. But that's what comes to mind when I think epics, because Thrones is very much about this world, and we're seeing this story and this story and this story and this story, and they're all interconnected.
Yes.
But it's the scale is so big, and it's cool because I would never make like an epic story about country music, but it works really well.
Yeah, it works
as its own world,
and it feels so natural. That was one thing I wanted to bring up that I thought was very interesting. Some of this, if I'm incorrect, I apologize, but I'm pretty sure I'm correct. But I read, like, whenever I was doing my research, I didn't have anywhere to, like, write anything down. It was, like, right before I went to work today, so I just read basically like a couple, primarily I read this one long article that really dove into a lot of stuff. So if I get some of this wrong, next time I will write it down to make sure that everything is tip-top and accurate. But I know this is generally the gist of it. So for all the campaign stuff, it was like, I think it was Altman's brother or somebody that he knew's brother had ran for some office and had lost. Mm-hmm. And he hired the campaign manager of that campaign. And apparently the stuff that they talk about, like changing the national anthem to stuff everyone can understand and taxing churches, that was what they were running under. So he had the campaign manager like write up a campaign basically, and he wanted it to be very similar to the losing campaign that he had ran for his brother. And then also on the level, just because this is, I thought was a brilliant directorial move. So whenever you see like the van or you see like advertisement for the campaign in a scene, he never orchestrated that. He just told the guy. Basically, like while they would be shooting, he would be like, "Yeah, and you guys just be in the area and be driving around with your stuff, and like be driving around with the speaker and everything going, and we'll just catch it on camera." So it doesn't seem like it's an orchestrated like, and then the car comes in. He would literally, while they'd be shooting another scene, he'd be like, "Yeah, you have free range. Just like stay around this area advertising." So it would seem as if the camera just kind of caught it by chance as we're watching the story.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's when we talked earlier about this. Just briefly, one thing I said is it felt very documentary, and it does not feel like a documentary, but it does in the way that you saying that, like them doing things like a directorial move like that, or a directorial move like having one camera and you're just bouncing from. It feels very spontaneous and like it is happening live, like it's happening in real life, and that's what a documentary is. You're capturing. It's not scripted. You're capturing real life and then you're making a story out of it. That's what this felt like. A lot of again, we talked. I mean, at points when it gets so hectic. Especially the final scene, so much of it becomes handheld, and it becomes we're getting shots of the people watching the characters, watching this happen to the characters, and it feels things like that feel like you're watching a real world event happen. And so when I say documentary, I don't mean like I think somebody's like narrating over it, but it feels like we're getting real world footage. It reminds me of Dog Day Afternoon. When in Dog Day Afternoon, this is a story about they do a bank robbery, they hold people. It's great, you should watch it. But when the SWAT team starts coming in, they get the helicopters and people start coming in and surrounding the bank. Purposefully, they shot it like a newsreel because it made it feel even more realistic. And again, it plays to how great of a director Robert Altman is. He's done movies like Popeye. But also movies that I would recommend, like MASH. It shows how solid of a director he is because it aesthetically it plays to building a sense of reality. This looks like we're shooting something in reality because the film feels like it's based in reality. You get sucked in and you're watching something real unfold.
I don't know the best time to put this in, but like kind of based on that, just an interesting little factoid.
Okay.
So basically, apparently part of the message he was trying to say was like, it was kind of based on like JFK's assassination, but it was also a message that like, with the hyper like obsession we have with celebrities, this is going to start happening not just to politicians, but like celebrities as well. And apparently, so this came out in 75. I think Lennon was shot in 79. I know it was after this movie because apparently I was reading in that article, the New York Times or somebody got in contact with Robert Altman after Lennon got assassinated and was like, do you partly feel responsible since like this was a thing that happened in your movie and like yada yada, and he was just like, do you feel responsible for not listening to me?
And that's one thing I want to touch on, especially when the big chunk I'm sure we're going to get into at the end of the episode. Like, it is really disheartening, I think is the word I would use, how relevant the last scene feels. That it is almost 50 years old, like we're 60 65 years old maybe. I don't know, math check on that. 30 plus 20 would be 2005. 30 would be
75. So if it was 70 to
30 would be 2005. Yeah, like 60.
Yeah, 70 to 2000 would be 30 plus 5 is 2005, and then now it's 2021. It's been a long time.
It's
since
like
this movie's
it's upwards of Upwards of 70
This
years.
movie is 114 years old.
No.
Check my math.
Upwards of
I dare you.
40.
I have no idea.
I think if anything
honestly.
needs to be
I can't
revealed
even
about us,
ballpark.
it's we're bad at math.
Yeah, like I don't know.
I don't know.
It was made a really long time ago,
But-
and it shouldn't feel as relevant as it does.
The
But it
last
almost feels like it's
scene-
more relevant to today's.
The last scene feels very relevant, and to me, based on what you just said about does Robert Altman feel responsible, I think we'll talk about this at the end. I think he is saying to a degree, like, this feels ridiculous. This world feels ridiculous and real, but this is where we're going, and it's because of the Kennedy
Do
assassination.
you feel like they ever fully explain why he wants to assassinate Barbara Jean?
I mean, I think it's just he's a crazy person.
Yeah.
And it shows, like, you hear about, like, you know, I don't know if this was Lee Harvey Oswald, but you hear about people who do crazy things like that, have bad relationship with their parents. Like him and his mother had a bad relationship.
Yeah,
he was kind of out of touch.
That's what they say.
They smell?
That's what people say. They usually smell. They're usually stinky.
Okay, stinky boys.
That's something that you can say about active shooters. It's just like,
They're stinky?
I guess. I feel like you can say whatever you want to say.
No
one's going to be like, hey, man. Maybe a lot of things, but he doesn't smell bad.
That's true. You really crossed the line there. No, but
He might not have been stinky. I don't know.
one thing I want to touch on direction for sure is this movie. It reminded me, in a modern context, of a Safdie brothers movie, because the editing is so quick. Mm-hmm. It's an anthology piece, right? So like it's supposed to be like, you know, we're moving a lot from different stories, so the editing is super fast and sometimes jarring, but not in a bad way. Just like it's keeping the energy very, very high. And then on top of that, there's so many So, for example, Noah Baumbach, when he writes dialogue, a lot of times the dialogue is overlapping. Mm-hmm. So the end of somebody's sentence usually coincides with the start of somebody else's sentence, which is very similar to
how people actually talk.
How people talk. This movie, there's so many scenes of people talking at the same time, which is very hard for you to focus on. Just like, wait, who do I need to be paying attention to? Because you're saying something and you're saying something, and they'll be in the middle of this heated discussion where they're all talking on top of each other, and it'll cut, and you're just like, what did we just leave? Mm-hmm. You know, and it feels which plays to the themes of just like the state of American politics at the time, but I wasn't aware of that. So it's funny because it sets you in this weird mood of just like, I felt tense when I was watching it, but I did not know why I was supposed to be feeling tense.
Yes. It's the way that it's set up like makes you feel like, is something coming, or are we just hanging out, or like what exactly? I don't know, but it does it in a way where you're not thinking like, oh, something's coming, but you're just like, why does this seem like everybody's lives are leading up to something?
Yeah, exactly.
But you can't really put your finger on it. One thing
I wrote in my notes, this movie feels like Disney World. Everybody jam-packed into a small space in the heat, and they're all focused on one thing, which is music.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. With you talking about people, all the conversations that are going on, like I don't know exactly what you're referring to, because in some scenes it's weird because it'll cut to these characters and they're having a conversation about this, and then it cuts to these characters and they're having a conversation about this, and then it cuts to these characters and you can tell that time has elapsed since the last time you were here, but they're still kind of talking about the same thing.
Yeah, and there are these moments where they'll have like funny little one-off lines. Mm-hmm. I can't remember. One really made me laugh. That's another thing I want to say about this movie, which is an interesting direction. It's very, very funny.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious.
Like it's I guess black humor is what it ends up being, but like there's a lot of funny moments in it.
Yeah.
But I can't remember the scene. There's a scene where they're at because there's a lot of scenes where they go to like a bar or a lounge or something, and somebody will be playing. Venue, and there's one scene where they cut to like two people sitting and at a table, and they're just like silent for a long time, and then somebody says something, and it just cuts. And I remember thinking that was an interesting kind of direction.
Decision.
I can't remember what they said. I wish I would have written
another thing, while we're kind of on this subject, the one takes Did you notice
Yes.
how many long takes there are in the movie? And I think that's why they were able to improv so well. And it was less of an editing nightmare because it was just like, yeah, here's the general gist of the conversation. We're doing a double shot of you guys. You're both going to be in it. Talk over each other. Stutter. If you mess up, just keep going.
Yes.
And it sounds more like real.
The one that comes to mind is when Lily Tomlin is like, she had just had her, because she's having an affair with one of the musicians.
Yeah.
And she's like getting out of bed, and it stays on her.
You're right. That is all one take.
And she gets up, and he like puts his hand on her back and asks if she'll stay. She goes in the bathroom. He gets on the phone,
starts calling another girl to come in front of her. That was why I think I loved her character, because she just had so much dignity. Of like, he was trying to bait her into. He like starts calling another woman on the phone while she's getting her stuff ready.
Yes.
He just asked her to stay. She says, "No, I have to get back to my husband." And he's like starts talking to somebody. He's like, "Yeah, why don't you come down here?" "Well, yeah, I'm staying at the yada yada." And just like, "Oh, come on, why not?" And she just like goes up, I think kisses him or something.
Yeah, they kiss.
And she leaves. And I think there's a part of it after that scene. I was just like, I like this lady. She is being, I don't know. She's clearly being like, she's being unfaithful. But at the same time, I expected her. Yeah. I thought like, oh, we're about to get a weird, cringy little scene of her being like, "Never mind, I'll stay." And then like when she doesn't, I was just, I don't know. It's conflicting because it's like she's being unfaithful. She's not like a good moral person, but she's got some pizzazz. She's got some
self-respect.
Some self-respect.
Even though she's not doing something respectable, she's got some self-respect.
Yeah,
I agree.
She doesn't respect her husband, but she respects
herself.
She
is great. What was her other big movie that she was in? T-500. What was that?
Lily Tomlin famously starred in 1980 comedy 9 to 5 alongside Jane Fonda and Dolly Parton.
That's why we have that thing, baby.
It's hilarious.
That thing, that's what I call him. That's right. Maybe the arc is I hate T-500. One thing I loved about which this definitely plays into writing, obviously, but it also plays into direction. This movie's obviously saying something. It's saying a lot of things. By the end, it's very obvious what it's saying. But I feel like it's very unbiased in its storytelling. And a lot of that has to do with like those single takes. Like, we're not focused on something. This movie's telling stories about rich people. It's telling stories about poor people. It's telling stories about good people. It's telling stories about bad people. It's telling stories about country music. It's telling about politics. But it's all filmed.
Stories about Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum.
I didn't mean to cancel your thought.
No, but let me just.
So good.
He's
it's weird.
So good.
But it's so small.
And he has no lines of dialogue.
No.
None.
No.
And he's just rolling. He's just rolling through it.
Wait, even to the waitress? Doesn't he say something to her?
No, he says nothing.
How does she start singing to him?
She's just
weird.
She wants to be a singer. He says no lines of dialogue, which
plays to what I'm very impressive magic trick.
He does. He does several. And that's the thing about Jeff Goldblum. One thing I thought about when I was watching this, it makes me wonder if, I don't know if this was his first movie, but he is young.
He's young.
And
it's such a small part, and like, it's Jeff Goldblum. You don't give Jeff Goldblum a small.
Exactly.
But he like steals the camera every time he shows up.
Which makes me wonder, because Jeff Goldblum obviously has this persona.
Yeah.
Like it makes me wonder if something like this, where you're just like, you're going to be like this weird character who's always doing magic tricks and being very eccentric.
Riding this interesting motorcycle.
And it makes me wonder if it established, like, okay, this is the start of
he was just
what
like,
became Jeff Goldblum.
Why don't I just be this?
But I'm actually glad you brought that up, because ironically, it connects to what I'm saying. So, I think the movie is shot very unbiased. There's not a whole lot of style in the shooting. It's one thing I thought. The musical performances are shot so well, like to points where it was like it felt just like you were watching a really well filmed live music, like a live concert. Yeah. Which makes me wonder if you saying that about something about the country music and they're trying to promote this country music, whatever. It makes me wonder if Robert Altman had some interest in doing like a live concert and it kind of stemmed out of that. Mm-hmm. But outside of those music performances, even those, it feels very almost like you're very outside of the situation, and you're watching it kind of unfold. Like when they're doing the show where, what's her name? The lady who's in the hospital gets shot.
Barbara Jean.
Barbara Jean's in the hospital, so they have to, the old country music star.
His name is Haven Hamilton.
Yes. Haven is like headlining.
I hate that guy.
I hate him. We'll talk about him in characters. But when Haven's headlining and he brings out her substitute, it's all shot from behind the stage, so you're just kind of watching it happen. It's not really, you don't get any close-ups on him in one of those extended takes. And it feels like, again, he's really just trying to show the world of Nashville. It's almost like he shot it. This is going to sound very pretentious and maybe like I'm looking too deep into the film, but it's almost as if he was shooting it like from Nashville's perspective. Like we are watching this the way that Nashville watches this stuff happen, which is just like, it has no stake in it. It's just there, and everything's happening inside of it, and we're just watching from a distance. Yeah. Which I was just like, maybe I'm thinking too deep into it. But then I thought about, that's kind of the role that Jeff Goldblum plays. He does not get involved. He takes people from one place to the other.
He's also just like always there.
He's silent. He's just in the background.
He does it so well. It's hilarious.
I know, it's so good. And it makes me think that either the writer or maybe Altman with the writer wrote this character as like an audience substitute, again, of just like, we're just like watching this stuff happen. We're not on anybody's side.
We're not players.
Yeah, we're not on his side. We're not on Haven's side. We're not on her side. We're not on, I don't even know the...
That was the thing. There's no like, I really like this character and I hope they succeed, and I really hope I dislike this character and I hope they fail. Because like we were saying, it's a hangout movie until the end just adds a weird amount of depth, like a ripple of depth through everything you would watch up to that point. So there's nothing, even me hating Haven, I just hate Haven because Haven's a prick. There's like nothing, there's no plot going down where I'm just like, oh, I really hope Haven doesn't win the big talent nothing.
It doesn't feel motivated. It doesn't feel like he's written as an antagonist.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing about real life. There are bad people that are successful. And so it doesn't feel like he's written to be this guy that's like, he's the problem. If somebody took care of him, everything else would be fixed. Yeah. He's just in the situation with everybody else.
Which shows how good the movie is. Because like to a degree, in saying it's a hangout movie, there's like kind of nothing going on.
No.
Like even in like Dazed and Confused, it's like, oh, we're going to this party tonight, and so then like a lot goes down at the party. And even in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, those are both hangout movies. Like in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the general thing is like, oh, it's this washed up actor, this old Hollywood, like old West actor that's trying to like make it in the new world. There's like a thing going on, but this one, there's like nothing going on, and it just goes to show how good the movie is because it is still so engaging and so interesting all the way through.
Agreed. It blew me away in that sense that what you just said, I don't want to reiterate. I don't want to say it all again.
Just repeat it all back to me. I love hearing my words.
But no, there was no... Haven would be the one that was most obviously supposed to be the bad guy. But he wasn't even a bad guy.
In the scene
he was a bad guy.
Yeah.
Not to quote Wreck-It Ralph. Shout out to my Ralph heads.
Did you see the scene? I think Connie White, if you were thinking earlier, whenever you said Barbara's replacement, is that what you're talking about?
No, I was talking about the waitress who...
Oh, yes.
I don't know her name.
But Connie White is the big celebrity, right?
Yes. Was she...
the waitress name was like Suleen Gay or like...
Suleen Gay.
Was it Suleen Gay?
Yeah. Was she a real celebrity? Because did you catch there were several real celebrities? Like Elliot Gould was in there, which was hilarious. Elliot Gould was in Full Metal Jacket.
Jake, I think you mean Robert Altman's previous war film, MASH. Continue with your thought, co-host.
And he was the one, remember when they go to the campgrounds or something?
Yeah.
And they're all just like, Elliot Gould's here.
Wait, so was that guy's actual name? Yeah. Because I knew that guy, but I didn't know if that was his name
Elliot
or not.
Gould. Hey,
that's
shout
funny.
out
That's
to the original
funny.
pilot to the top 500. He was in Ocean's 11.
Oh, yeah, he was, wasn't he? If you've listened to the other episodes, we went in depth of... We were doing another list, and the first two movies were Ocean's 11 and Saw.
Yeah.
And it just...
really set the tone for the series.
Yeah, well, this list that we've switched to, like, the number 500 is Gone Girl. And if, like, the worst movie in this list is Gone Girl, I'm just so much more optimistic about this list, honestly. Ocean's 11, it's fun, but I'm not trying to really dive into it, per se.
Me neither. There's not a whole lot of things to dive into.
Saw actually had a few things to dive into. That was a pretty good movie.
It was a solid script.
Yeah, I see why it was $4.99 and not $500. It beat Ocean's 11 out.
I don't know if I agree with that. But one more thing, obviously, jump in anytime if you have stuff about direction. But one more thing I want to touch on about direction is I felt like the opening scene. So there was a really long, like 15, 20-minute opening scene of like credits. There was a really cool, like stylized opening scene, or credit scene, which was like almost like a TV ad for a country music album where it was just like Robert Altman's Nashville, and it named all the people who were in the movie.
Yeah.
But the opening scene was kind of establishing some of the bigger players, and it was Haven.
Yeah.
Him recording a song on his album. And in the same recording studio, Lily Tomlin's character, who is a choir leader, she like makes choir albums, is recording a song with a choir. And it starts with Haven and Haven's son, who I think is a goofy character.
Haven's son is like the 1975 Jesse Plemons.
He looks like
we were
Jesse
talking about
Plemons.
it. Or no, wait, is it Jesse? Right? That's
Yes,
his name. Yes. Dude, if anyone ever remakes this movie, if Jesse Plemons does not
First off,
fight tooth and nail,
don't.
Yeah, that's actually fair.
That's my film goer impression. My like film guy impression.
Oh yeah.
If you're gonna remake this, first off, don't.
But if you do,
cast
Jesse Plemons. We need him.
So, anyways, the opening scene
He's
with Jesse Plemons and
I'm just doing that actor such a disservice. That guy worked so hard.
Probably it was 50 years ago or 100 years ago. Who knows?
Yeah, it was like 114 years ago.
Anyways, his son, Haven's son, and this BBC reporter who is just
oh my goodness.
Also,
she is racist and just rude and
she's the worst. But they go. She's in the recording studio with Haven. Haven, being like the old jaded jerk that he is just like, I don't want anyone in the studio.
Yeah, he's like, oh no outsiders in the studio. Well, he doesn't talk like that at all. I don't know why.
That was closer than mine, I think. So she goes to the other room where Lily Tomlin's character is recording with the choir, and this credits are rolling. Again, this is an extended like 10, 15-minute long sequence, and it keeps cutting back from Haven to the choir. And the whole time, the choir is singing one song. And technically Haven is too. But they're like, the whole scene is them doing one long song that they're building on. At one point, I don't know if you caught it, Lily Tomlin like stumbles and she messes up and she like laughs and they keep singing and they're all just like clapping, having a good time. And it cuts. And Haven's character is recording a song, and every couple minutes he's like, stop. Who's this piano player's name? His name's Frog. I told you I don't want Frog, I want Pig.
No, his response, he goes, well, he plays like a frog.
And I thought it was really cool because it was nice matching action, especially in a movie that's not very action heavy. That felt very...
Yeah, it was such a good opening, and it really set the tone. But I also felt like that was Altman showing visually the difference between like real music and quote unquote like real music. I wrote something similar because Haven's music is so smooth and so beautiful and so just like you can just rock back and forth to it, but so ungenuine because he's singing like very kind lyrics about like, and my daddy told me on that day, what? Stop! Do you realize you're not in tune?
Yeah,
and it like shows that, and then because he wants everything to be so smooth and so perfect. But then the choir recording their song is chaotic, and they're messing up, but they keep going, and it's just beautiful and genuine.
They're smiling, they're clapping, they're dancing. Yeah. And it felt like a nice juxtaposition of just like, this is real music. This is music that will be popular and probably, especially in the terms of the story, but probably what would sell in Nashville. But like
Haven's music,
yeah. But this is like real music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I just thought it was a cool visual representation of that and showing the difference of that. It's a nice visual contrast. Writing? You want to move on? This is going to be the big boy.
Can I just bring up one quick thing with the writing?
Please do.
So the girl, what did we agree her name? Something gay?
Something C gay.
Yeah. Hold on, I have it written down somewhere. Sue Lin.
It's Sue Lin Gay.
That's definitely not what we said before, but that is her name, Sue Lin Gay.
It is Sue Lin Gay.
I thought it was interesting. It was like an interesting full circle because in the scene after she is forced to strip, she's got this guy who's being very like a friend to her basically because
he keeps showing up through the whole movie.
Yeah, he's in a bunch of the movies,
and it cracks me up because I don't know if there was something deeper there.
He tries to hit on that guy's wife. The guy who he runs off
he
when
buys her the cider.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
But it cracks me up because he keeps showing up to places drunk. I don't know if that was supposed to be a deeper meaning or if it was just like a funny little thing. but like he causes a scene in one of the early scenes, and then he's at the thing drunk, hitting on Lily Tomlin's character. And I don't get it. I don't know if there's anything deeper, but it was just
I don't know either. But that is kind of interesting because Lily Tomlin's character's husband, after the Su Lin Gay is forced to strip, he follows her home.
Doesn't
and
somebody
he comes
says
and
to
says some weird what?
Somebody says to somebody, "Didn't your mom teach you any manners?"
Yeah, he says that. The guy says that to the husband.
Interesting.
Yeah, the guy who always shows up drunk because he's like a friend to Su Lin Gay. But yeah, what's the lady's name? I just blanked out.
Lily Tomlin.
Yeah, Lily Tomlin's husband comes up to Su Lin and is like saying weird stuff to her. Just about like, "Hey, I'm sorry about that. You know, I wanna kiss you. You know, I wish I could kiss you all over."
He's trying to.
Yeah. He's trying to like, oh, let me console you. You want me to come up in your party? Like, he's being a creep. But then, dude who's always drunk, who's actually a pretty good friend to this woman. This is like the only time we see him not kind of being a douche. Like, he's just kind of a jerk and like all.
I like the way it ended. He was just like, I'm going to Detroit or something.
Yeah, he tried to like tell her to come. Yeah,
you're not going to make it in the town. Which
so she talks about So whenever he runs the guy off, runs the her husband off, or what is her name? I keep forgetting. Lily Tomlin.
It's all right. I don't know.
She deserves more. She's great. But he runs Lily Tomlin's character's husband off and yells at him, "Hey, don't you got any manners?" And then he talks to her and he's just like, "What's going on? Like, what happened?" And she tells him how she was forced to strip. And he's just like, "You can't do that." And she's like, "No, like I'm gonna keep singing. Like they got me a gig at yada yada." And so he's the only person in the whole movie that's honest with her. And he's like, "Look, I've been trying to find a way to tell you this. You can't sing, girl. Like, you can't sing at all. You're so bad at singing. Like, they're going to eat you alive."
Talking about the realisticness and the kind of just, like, keep going, she broke character in that scene. She laughs in that scene.
Well, she's laughing because she's... Well, no. She's laughing because she thinks what he's saying is ridiculous because she's like, you don't get it.
I did not get that vibe at all.
Really? That was the vibe I got.
It felt like a very genuine character. Especially the line he delivered.
He does deliver it really funny.
The line he delivered was very comedic, and she totally... I got the vibe she broke character.
That's funny. But I just thought it was interesting because he makes the comment to her... he's just like, "You're going to get killed out here, girl." And she's like, "No, I'm not. I'm going to be just like Barbara Jean. Like, I'm going to be just like Barbara Jean." And then Barbara Jean gets murked at the end of it. Yeah.
Nice. I didn't catch that, but I feel like that was totally intentional.
I do, yeah.
There's so many things I want to talk, and we don't have that much time, so let me just blast through two things before we hit the big political thing, because I feel like that's where the bulk of the conversation is. First of all, this is a movie about fame, people wanting fame. And one thing I wanted to get your opinion on, I felt like the message about Superstar's name?
Barbara Lynn.
I felt like the message of Barbara Lynn was the only way that a good person can succeed in this world.
Barbara Jean.
Have
I been saying Barbara Lynn this whole time?
No, it's Su Lin.
Su Lin, yes. Barbara Jean.
We don't know the names. I know, for sure.
Again, let's reiterate, 24 main characters.
Can we go back? Because I was really actually in shock, not at how good I did, but because that is such a traumatic moment when you have to say so many words in 60 seconds. Nailed the lightning round this episode.
Yeah, you killed it.
I don't think I can... I think it's only going to go downhill from here for me.
Not for me, bro. I'm going to start practicing. I'm going to start just...
That's the point of the thing. No, not
practicing the movies beforehand. Just practicing telling my friends movie plots in 60 seconds.
Gotcha. Time yourself. Barbara Jean.
Yes.
I feel like...
Wait.
Yeah.
Just kidding, yes.
I feel like the message with her is the only way... Because I feel like she was the only quote-unquote good... Well... I feel like she was one of the, especially the people who made it in the country industry. She was the only one that was good out of them. She wasn't really motivated but she was also not mentally well. It was very obvious that she had been abused by her husband, maybe not physically, but definitely like emotionally abused. She had a breakdown in the hospital room. She broke down on her live performance. Like, she was not mentally well. Correct, and she even said, like, she said when she was having a breakdown on stage, "I've been doing this, like, for as long as I can remember," or something like that. So, like, she's not in a good headspace. And I feel like the story of the theme of that, why they wrote that story the way they did was, in order to succeed in this, you either have to be, your motivations have to be for the wrong reasons, or you have to not be able to be mentally sane. Mm-hmm. You need to be mentally unwell, and then somebody can come and take care of you and make sure you get what you need.
Uh-huh. So one thing I thought was interesting about that is because I do agree with you 100% that she is probably, of all the people who have made it, she seems like the most most good person, followed by, or maybe equal with, the girl who, and I apologize, I don't know her name, but there's a girl throughout this movie that is constantly trying to get a gig anywhere.
Yes.
And so a big part of the theme at the end of the movie is Barbara Jean gets killed. Haven is in shock because Haven gets like grazed in the shoulder, but Barbara Jean gets she's dead. You can tell, honestly, like when the first bullet rings out, her head just cocks back and she collapses. So you know it was a headshot, like she's done. But Haven is in shock, so Haven picks up the microphone and starts saying something about like, oh, well, this ain't Dallas, like, this is Nashville, like, keep it cool, everybody, we gotta show them they can't do this to us here, which is clearly he's talking about JFK. But he starts saying, he's just like, let's start singing, somebody start singing, and he hands the mic to somebody off screen and goes, start singing, and it's this girl who you've been watching trying so hard to get a gig anywhere she can, and she starts singing. And honestly, it's funny because the only time that you hear her sing before that, or you don't hear her sing, the only gig she gets is like at a race car rally, and so you can't hear her because there's these cars with these loud engines like running around the track. So it's like a funny little moment. But she actually starts singing, and she's phenomenal. But it's weird because the crowd kind of just like she calms everybody down and they all start singing with her, and like the very end, like everybody's just singing with her. And I think part of the symbolism there is like each time that we have this like unhealthy celebrity obsession within our societies, but each time one of them is killed, there's always another one immediately to come up and take their place.
Agreed.
And she's very similar to Barbara Jean because everybody thought Barbara Jean was kind of like almost like a woman of the people, like that's kind of the vibe you get from the people, and she kind of has a similar vibe to Barbara Jean's, and
I love that.
They're both like kind of the best people in the story. There's nothing they do in this entire story where you're like, this is not a good person. And every other character, even the lady who I cannot remember her name still to save my life. I'm going to write it down. What is her name? No, the actress.
Lily Tomlin.
Thank you. Even Lily Tomlin, who I would say is, for some reason that I can't really understand, is like maybe my favorite character in this whole movie.
I think she's the most even-keeled.
She's
not like,
but she's morally corrupt. She does some stuff. Yeah,
she cheats on her husband, but her husband, everybody's corrupt. That's another thing I think. Anyways, what were you saying about Lily Tomlin?
I was only saying that like I was just saying Barbara Jean and the girl who's trying to get a gig are the only like two actual good characters, and even Lily Tomlin, who I think is great, and I love her character. She even
is corrupted.
Yeah, is corrupted.
I think that's the thing is like in that world, and we'll touch on it next, but same with politics. I think they're mirroring again. I think this is a movie about politics on a broad scale, on a broad scope, told through the lens of country music, and I think that's a big part of it. I think he's saying like you cannot get into this unless you are a crazy person. You can't succeed in politics unless you are a crazy person or you are extremely corrupt, which again is disheartening that he was saying this in 1975 because it still feels relevant right now. Like I feel like we're at the age where all of this is getting exposed to a mass scale. We're seeing corruption on a mass scale. I think it's the age of information. I think it's just we're seeing it on our phones. This sounds like big boomer talk, but like we're seeing it on our phones every day that people in power are either extremely corrupt or very, very crazy. And
yeah, it's been set up in such a way that now that we're realizing it, it's just like there's pretty much nothing we can do. You guys are all
and
not good.
Again, it's just disheartening that it's but I think it's a very surface level theme. But I think again, you start really, these characters feel very real, and so it feels like it's happening to real people. So it's way easier to kind of digest, I think, and it almost is like you're seeing somebody you know. It happened to somebody you know, so it feels even that more relatable. But the story of just like fame, we all want fame, but when you get it, it's not what you want. Like I think nothing is better. A better example of that is like Tom, who is the guy in the trio, who's kind of a womanizer. He sleeps with a couple of women. He sleeps with the British reporter. It's very obvious he's like made it. Like they as soon as they're introduced, they're talking about how their records are getting sold at the airport and people recognize them, and they like made it. And he's famous. People recognize him, and he's still unhappy.
Yeah.
Like he wants to be with Lily Tomlin. That's very obvious. That's what would make him happy if he could. He's in love with her, and that's what would make him happy. Not he got the fame. It's not quenched his thirst.
That was another interesting thing as far as and this is kind of with story or kind of directing, so I think it's interesting to touch on. But like when I was talking about how Robert Altman he barely gave anybody any direction on how they were supposed to play their character. Mm-hmm. The guy who played Tom Frank, that character, didn't like the character, and he was always just like, I don't really like this guy, so I don't really know how to play him. And Robert Altman apparently just wouldn't really give him. He was just like, yeah, well, just play it. So he played a lot of the stuff very like rigid and kind of like weird because he wasn't sure exactly how he should play it because he hated the character. Yeah. And then that has now been interpreted by a lot of the audiences as like, oh, this guy hates himself, and you can see his self-loathing. And it's funny because like it plays in perfectly for the character, but it was like, from what I read, kind of unintentional, mixed with some intention that wasn't really sure where the intention was supposed to be directed, and it was just kind of, it's very interesting.
Before we wrap up, because we're getting close to the end, I just want to dive in, because, I mean, we've touched on a lot of it, but just, like, in bulk. Like, I think the vibe I got, and I want to kind of bounce it off of you, is that this is a parallel of American politics at the time. I think that's pretty obvious. With, like, a lot of the visuals at the end, it keeps, like, match cutting, or not match cutting, but it keeps reverse shot to American flag. I think, to me, the end signified, one, that it's all political. Oh, one thing I definitely do not want to brush over, because I feel like, to me, this was the key point in the movie about fame and about politics. You can really relate this to either. The scene where the old man finds out his wife died in the hospital, and everyone is focused on Barbara Jean leaving, and the guy's just like, the soldier is like talking to him about Barbara Jean. He's like, giving your best to your wife, and he just like breaks down. To me, that was Altman and the writer going like, none of this matters. Like, the fame, at the end of the day, it does not matter. We are so focused on this. This guy, he lost his wife. That's what matters. But nobody cared. Yeah. You know?
Well, why was that guy talking to him about Barbara Jean?
Because that was kind of weird. He sat with him the night before at one of the live performances. Yeah. Okay. So he like knew him.
Gotcha. Okay,
and he said their son.
I guess I missed that, and I was kind of confused as to like, why is this guy just?
Their son served in the Navy in World War II, and they lost his son.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I do.
But again,
one of the multitude of conversations that was going on within another 1,000 conversations, I missed that one, or I didn't miss it. But
this
I forgot
movie
about it.
Is going to benefit so much on multiple viewings.
Oh yeah, I already want to watch it again. Honestly.
I want to buy it on Blu-ray. I want to buy all the things we've seen on Blu-ray. Yeah, maybe not Gone Girl, but we don't have to talk about that. I like Gone Girl a lot, but I mean these films have been fantastic. Yeah. But no, I think the end is all about how you have to be corrupted or you have to be crazy to be in this world. I think it's all political. I think he's saying that about the music industry, and I think he's saying that about, obviously, politics, that at the end of the day, it boils down to who you know. I think that was one of the scenes, that was one of the points of the Elliot Gould scene, is that, remember, he's just like, that's Elliot Gould? I just shook his hand like he was some random man on the street. And it was just like, why would that matter? Yeah. You know, it's all about status.
And he does go back and apologize, which is so weird because at the end of the day, it's just like, that's a human. Like, you don't have to act like he's better than just like, Mr. Gould, I'm so sorry. You remember
I know, yeah. It's all political. Yeah. And then this is when I want to bounce off you and hear your thoughts. To me, the ending was JFK. Okay, this is JFK. She just got shot. We're paralleling the shooting. In, what was that, 68?
8, I think.
And somebody even referenced JFK. There was an extended conversation between two characters about how the shooting of the Kennedys like really affected this person.
Man, he says the whole thing about like, we got to show them this ain't Dallas, this is Nashville at the end of the movie.
So I think that is obviously JFK. And then I think after that, kind of what you said about we need someone to fill that role. But the fact that it was so hectic for a second, and then it was just like, she put everybody in kind of like a trance. Mm-hmm. And then everybody just started singing. And to me, it was Altman going, this is our political world now. And this is really kind of just this is the state of America now, from now on, which is just like notable people are going to get killed. And it's because of their involvement in this very, very shady scene. Mm-hmm. And it's going to freak everybody out. And then we're just going to move on.
Yeah.
And we're going to fill the void. And we're not going to think about it very much. Mm-hmm. And again, why it was pretty upsetting to me is before we were in a worldwide shutdown, there were mass shootings on the regular.
Dude, that has been honestly... I don't know. I don't want to... Yeah,
I know exactly. You don't want to say it's been a good thing about it.
Yeah, I don't want to say it's been a good...
Because obviously so many people have gotten
clearly, the pandemic is terrible. Like, this is a terrible situation. But it has been very... I mean, I don't know. It's kind of just giving up one stress for another stress. But at the same time, just because... I don't know. School shootings and mass public shootings are just so... like... disturbing to hear about. And like the pandemic, this is a terrible situation, and like we're trying to get a handle on it, we're working at it. But it's been nice not to weekly have to hear disturbing news about just like, 43 dead at at a nightclub, and just like, oh, this high school got shot up, and oh, this concert got. It's like that's been.
Agreed.
I'm glad that is not because, dude, Agreed. It was literally a couple times a week something was getting shot up, and it was getting to the point where you start thinking like, at some point, if this is happening this often, I'm probably going to be there for one of them.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. That is pretty, I don't know, another synonym to use. Disheartening, upsetting are the two that I use. Just like a bummer. It's just like this was happening 40 plus years ago, and it's still happening. Like this is, if anything, it's a warning sign of just like, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, which goes back to like, that's why they tried to blame him, or not. Or I mean, I don't know. Somebody just asked him, "Do you feel responsible for John Lennon's death?" And it's like, I didn't encourage anybody to do this. I was just telling you this is going to start happening. This is going to be an element that starts taking place because of our mass obsession with celebrities and how political the whole structure of it is.
And I think also it's a parallel of which, I mean, we have reached the breaking point. Again, we're not. It's hard to talk about something like this and not be political, right? Mm-hmm. I hope, I want people to listen to this show however you think. You should watch movies. It's going to open your mind, and it's going to give you new perspective, and it's going to make you change the way you think about things. So I'm not trying to close off. I'm not trying to close off anybody to this podcast. I mean, there are certain people that it's just like, I don't want murderers.
Yeah, we got enemies out there.
We do. But
if you don't roll with the meat gang, get out.
But I think it's a breaking point with DJT as our president, 45. Mm-hmm. Like, it is the nightmare situation of this movie, which is we are so obsessed with celebrity that we put the top position of power in our nation to a celebrity. Yeah. Somebody who did not come from a political background. Yeah. And that's what this movie... It's saying, like, politics are basically a celebrity's game nowadays.
Interesting take. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
We've reached, the tipping point of that. Reagan was, 10 years after this? And then now here we are, however many years later, and we have a celebrity as president. Mm-hmm. And again...
Not anymore.
We don't anymore.
We're back to the politicians now. Which I don't know if I like that much more.
I don't know if there is a difference. That's what I'm saying. This movie really made me kind of think. Yeah. It's just like, is there a difference? If the worlds work the same, if politics is not about helping people anymore, if it's about power and it's about status, then what is the difference? I think that really, to me, is what the movie is trying to say. Is like these two worlds are much more similar than we'd like to admit.
Yeah. And becoming almost muddled. Especially when you got, like in today's climate, being a celebrity, you're almost kind of a politician.
Yes,
because
100%.
You're expected to give your stance on everything and make sure that you're on the right side of yada yada. And then, like, if you say this, it's not just like, oh, well, like, this guy's an idiot, but I like his music. It's just like, what? This guy supports like, okay, well, and especially in today's culture, it wasn't a thing back then. I hate the cancel culture. It's ridiculous. We'll probably get canceled before we get to Godfather Part 2.
I'm sure T500 is going to do us in.
Oh, yeah, dude. T500's got a big old mouth on him.
Yeah, not really, though.
Not a physical mouth. But he got a big
no
old
eyes,
mouth.
no ears, no mouth.
No. Just a Gucci blazer, baby.
Dude, I mean, there's so much I want to talk about this movie. There's like more. There's themes that I think everybody should check it out and explore the themes for themselves. There's themes about the characters that I think are very interesting. Certain characters play certain roles that we could dive into. I think there's something to be said about the role of the black community in this movie. There's some undertones going on there that I haven't landed on. But again, we're running out of time, so we can't really talk about it. Yeah. Hey, listen, if anybody listens to this podcast and you're interested in an extended version of our episodes, something a little longer, we try to keep it about an hour and a half in the last couple.
If you guys want 6 hours, just kidding.
If you want a 3-hour Alex Jones, Joe Rogan style podcast, let us know.
We'll get into the conspiracies revolving around the film Nashville.
Because I don't know if you picked up on this, but we can talk.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like we're gonna wrap this up for your sake because you need to get to class. But we could probably keep going for a couple hours. After
easily.
This. Yeah,
dude. We didn't talk about characters. There's so many good characters that I wish I could dive into. But again,
there's the whole thing between that one dude's wife and Tom Frank. Remember that? How they're staring at each other? And the two members of the trio. Like, Tom's one of the members of the trio.
There was definitely something going on. He's like, you forgot your jacket. Remember that?
Who said that?
Tom.
To who?
To the female singer in the trio.
Interesting. No,
she leaves, and when he's like, yeah, we were a trio, but they kind of abandoned me up here. When she's leaving the thing, he's like, you forgot your jacket. And he like throws it at her. There's some tension there.
Yeah. Tom Frank hates himself.
He does.
On accident.
Check out, seriously. I mean, it's a 2-hour and 40-minute movie, so, strap yourself in for a long kind of viewing.
It's a country music epic, which I didn't think there were any.
I didn't either, and I'm glad.
And it's great. I'm not trying to say any bold things here. I don't like country music, and this movie is outstanding. It's got some of the best country music I've ever heard.
Agreed 100%. You should definitely check it out. Form your own opinion.
Yeah, form your own opinion.
T500, what's the movie we're watching next week?
Next week's movie is Carlita's Way.
Thanks again to the Arrow Podcast Network.
The Arrow Podcast Network really just saves lives.
It really does. It really does.
It really does.
You should go check out the shows on there.
Yeah, the shows are fantastic.
My favorite one is
T500. Will you tell everyone what my favorite one is? I know you hate responding to it. Please, just this once.
I was going to use T500 to say mine.
No.
If I remember correctly, your favorite podcast on the Spectacular Arrow Podcast Network is Back Off Track, an entertainment podcast, John, and I do prefer you to Jake.
T500.
All right. As always, I've been Jonathan.
I've been Jake.
And we'll catch you on the next
installment
of
the Top
500
Podcast
on the Arrow Podcast Network.
Goodbye.
I love it.
You have reached the end of the Top 500 with Jonathan and Jake.